Hello, good evening, good morning, wherever you may be in this wonderful, splendid world. Welcome to another Photo Creative Live feedback session. If you're unfamiliar with Photo Creative, it is a series of monthly photographic challenges which I set for a group of wonderfully friendly, gorgeous, talented and fabulous photographers of all levels on a Facebook group. We have a challenge which is designed to stretch your creativity, to get you learning new things and practicing. And then we come and meet here on YouTube for a live feedback session. No sound, says somebody. Is anybody else suffering from no sound? Because I've got sound coming out from my end. Hello, can anyone else hear me? Just let me know. Sorry, Mladen, looks like everyone else has got sound, so I'm not quite sure what's happening there, my friend. Good, thank you, folks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, before we get going on this particular challenge, unfortunately, we have got some really rather sad news in that one of our members, Paul Tyzak, sadly died unexpectedly fairly recently, and I just wanted to give him a shout out to his friends, his family and everybody else, and I'm sure you will join me in doing that. Paul was great fun, he was a great photographer, he joined in with the group, he's been with us for years. He was always generous with his time and his feedback, and he always helped people out. So I am really, really sorry to hear that we have lost him, and I think you'll all join me in sending our thoughts and feelings to his friends and his family. Paul, you will be missed. In fact, our next challenge is inspired by Paul, but you're going to have to wait until the end before you get to find out exactly what that is. Please remember to hit that like button on this live stream, because it really, really helps me out. If you're new here and you like what you see and you would like to join in these challenges, there is a link in the description with this video. Click on that, it'll take you to a page of my website where you can find out all about it. So, have I got any notes here of other things I wanted to talk about? Oh yes, I wanted to mention our Zero to Hero series. I don't know how many of you are aware of this. Some of the old hands maybe, and some of you are on there. Zero to Hero is a place where you can tell us your story. We will share it on our website. This isn't about you bigging me up. If you've been on my courses and training, then that's wonderful. If they've played a part, then that is fantastic. Zero to Hero is for you to tell your story, your journey through photography, how you struggled, the things you really struggled to work with, how you grew confidence, how much practice you put in. Many of you have submitted your Zero to Hero stories, and they are truly inspiring. I would recommend you go and check those out. I don't think there is a link in the description below, but if you go to my website and just have a look in the footer at the bottom, Zero to Hero. We are in the process of completely rebuilding the website. It's having a total update. It is such a lot of work, but there's going to be a lot more images. The navigation is going to be a lot easier. But go and check out those Zero to Heroes if you're in need of inspiration. There is going to be a whole brand new inspiration section as well. So I think that's probably as far as we need to go. Let's get started. Let's have a look at some of your amazing images, because the sooner we get going, obviously, the sooner we can move on. So here we go. This month's Plants and Trees Challenge. Let me just arrange my screens a little bit so I can see what's going on. Make sure I don't shout out the wrong images. There we go, and I can see the chat too. Fantastic. Thank you everybody who has entered. I absolutely salute you. These challenges are not a competition. They are a workout for your creativity. I'm your coach. This is your gymnasium. This is where you get to go and do things. which is why we don't post the album where you can put your pictures until the end of the challenge, about a week before the due date, because it's really tempting to think, oh, I've done that, and leave it. I do it, everybody does it. By not having the album there for you to put up your entries, it's going to force you to keep working at it and keep working at it. And then when you've got 4 or 5 or 10 or however many images, you can choose the very best one, and it will keep you practicing. Okay, someone else has just said the sound disappeared. Is anyone else suffering from that? I have no idea why. All my monitors are showing that it is working fine. Just let me know, please, in that chat. Okay, some of you have got sound, 1 or 2 of you haven't, and I have no idea why. I am sorry, my friends. There is not much I can do with that. What I will do is I am just going to open another screen with this live so that I should be able to hear it if necessary. Look, there you go. You can see me doing it. Let me just turn the audio up. Yep, I can hear myself, so that's good. Right, let's get back to what we are supposed to be doing. Yes, Susan, try refreshing the browser. If you ever have a problem, always refresh your browser. So our images. I'm going to start at the top just for a moment because I wanted to give a shout out to Kenneth Caldwell. Plants and trees. Okay, I love it. Good lazy photo. Love to see the fun involved in this. And it's not a bad photograph either, so nice one, Kenneth. Okay, I'm just checking because it looks like some people say they've got problems. I'm sorry guys, if you've got a problem, I can't help, and it's actually quite distracting when I see it come up. So I'm going to ignore those comments for the moment because there's nothing I can do about it. Ah, so this is Ava Marie's entry. Ava Marie, I am so sorry. I thought it was your dad's. Great sense of humour. I love it, Ava Marie. And for those of you who don't know, Ava Marie is a very young photographer indeed. You've got all your exposure right. You've got everything all spot on. I like your composition and I really like your sense of humour. So rock and roll. I didn't even realise it was your image. Apologies, Ava Marie. Right, I'm going to zip down to the other end and we're going to work back up. As you can see, there are some beautiful images. There's some great ideas. And that is what it's all about. Photography is about thinking things through. It's about using this thing up here. Most of photography happens in your head, not in the camera. If you can't think like a photographer, you can't possibly be one, because as Adams once said, there is nothing worse than a sharp picture of a fuzzy idea. You have to be able to control your camera with the same amount of concentration you give to breathing on a day-to-day level. Because if you can't, you're going to be lost in worrying about shutters and apertures and settings. How on earth are you going to be creative when the majority of your brain is taken up with that? Go check out my online training courses and my workshops. There are links in the description below because I can cure that problem for you very quickly. Many of you have done them. You rock. So let's just have a little look here. I'm just going to start at the end here. Randy Weatherly, plants and trees, lichens, different way to do this. I think it's great fun. I think it's an interesting picture. You've got a nice composition. I quite like the way you've got everything going on in the bottom left corner, the way those rocks are sort of pushing you up through the big rock, and that's pointing up into the sky. There is a journey through this image which I think is really rather splendid. Your exposure is spot on, but also you have, either by luck or judgment, got a really interesting sky. Look at all those little sheepy clouds and look at the way they are fanning towards the camera. They're not fanning away from it, they're kind of coming towards us. It's causing a dynamism which is taking us deeper into the picture. Now, can you control clouds when you're taking a photograph? Of course not. The only thing you can do is to make sure you're in the right place at the right time. I get it. It's not always possible. We have jobs and families and people like that to, you know, interrupt our lives as photographers. I think it's a great image. I love your colours. I like the simplicity of it. And I very much like the sky. This is all about seeing. We have to be super hyper aware of our surroundings. And this is all part of thinking and being a photographer. Thank you, Randy. Another one, and I know it's right next to the last one, but Sharon Grigg. I just think this is such a great idea. It's unusual and it's eye-catching, and that is why I've been drawn to it straight away. Yes, Sandra Sim, as you put in a comment, it is a great angle. One way we can make our images interesting is to look at something from a different angle, a different point of view. So when you see, let's say, I don't know, a swan on a lake, and it's coming towards you because it's a scrounging little git and he wants you to feed it. As it's coming towards you, we look down at it, get down low, try and get on swan's eye level, or preferably below it, maybe with a wide angle lens. Let it get really, really close, because you'll have a dramatic different point of view. And Sharon, you've done a really great job here with this. I love the simplicity, and I like your choice of colours, red and green, pink and green, whatever. They work together, they are best friends. I love this little shoot coming out of what I think is an avocado, the simplicity of the two leaves. But most of all, I like this shadow running up here. I think it is a cracking little masterstroke. So Sharon has got light coming in from one side to create that shadow, I guess. Cracking picture. How could it be improved, Sharon? My only criticism here, and I'm being your harsh coach, would be that depth of field, if at all possible, could be increased, because the leaves are soft, but the seed at the bottom, that is nice and pin sharp. I don't know which way round to do this, whether it's better to have the leaves sharp and the avocado soft. Ideally we want all of it sharp. I'm not sure if that's achievable, because it depends on the distance between the camera and the subject. So we've got, think about this guys, we've got a little seed going on down here as represented by that fist. We've then got a stalk, and then we've got some leaves. So we need a depth of field that's going to stretch sort of from up here down to here. If you're close to your subject, your depth of field is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. It's the opposite of an infinity point. Therefore, you may need to use the smallest aperture in the shot. Sharon, I don't know if you're here. I would love to know if you know off the top of your head which aperture you were using. Now this can be difficult, of course, because without a tripod, then you're going to have to find a way to keep the camera still, because it's probably going to require a very, very slow shutter speed to account for that little tiny aperture, which will give us the depth of field. Now, who is it who just said that? Barry Partington said, I'd focus stack. That is where I was going next. Excuse me. Focus stacking, it's a technique whereby you would take multiple images. You would take a shot with the leaves, you then take it further down the stalk, and then maybe to the seed, and then maybe all the way down to the paper. Those shots have to be identical compositions at identical exposures. You would then stack them together using the sharp parts of each image and blending them into one. Now I know many people are not particularly into focus stacking, they're not into the post-production thing. To be honest with you, I have never photo stacked an image in my life. If I can avoid post-production, I do. However, it is another technique. So great shot, Sharon. That was my only thing. If you could have got the leaves sharp and the seed, I think that would have helped. Now if you haven't got enough depth of field to reach the whole way, you can always pull it back, pull that focus back towards the camera just a bit. Maybe you could get the leaves and the seed, because I don't think it would matter so much if the shadow on the background was slightly soft. So I hope everyone found that just a little bit valuable. And if you're starting out on your photography journey, don't be disheartened. The reason I go into depth with some of these things is because I want to try and help you understand what the photographer has done. What else have we got here? Ha ha! It's our friend Jane Kilbride, who, if I'm not mistaken, was the first ever winner when we were called Photo Lockdown. Jane is a great photographer, we know that already. Beautiful picture. Now this is of course the opposite depth of field that was needed for this, a shallow one to make everything stand out beautifully. Again, great simplicity of colours. We got green on green with a little bit of these sort of blue lilacs and that wonderful little fly. You see, you can have the most beautiful model or the most amazing place, but you can make a picture of a common little housefly look interesting if you put a little bit of this into it, if you think like a photographer. So beautiful picture. What more can I say, Jane? Jane's used a wide-ish aperture, but because it's a macro shot, she's been really, really close. Therefore, remember what I said just now, the closer you get, the smaller your depth of field becomes. So who knows? You may have been shooting on quite a middle aperture, f8, f11, Jane, in order to get enough depth of field to capture the fly, because it will get as thin as a piece of paper. You are most welcome. Thanks, Jane. There are some great images here, and please don't be disheartened if yours doesn't get a shout out. I know there has been mutterings in the group because some people have said, I've been doing this for ages and he never chooses mine. Please don't take this personally. It's not that I'm not choosing yours. I am randomly choosing, as I'm looking at them right now, images that I think will help. Something I'm thinking of doing, thanks to our good friend who I know took this picture here, Peter Schmidt, when he was over here from Germany for a couple of days of private training. He has said straight out that he would like to pay for my time to do some personal training, and from that conversation with Peter, I am going to be setting up a feedback group. So if you really want feedback, you're someone who wants to take this seriously, I will set up a group. Switzerland, Peter, I'm sorry mate, I know what you're going to do to me next time you see me. We will be setting up a feedback group. There will be a limited number of people. We will meet once a month, something like that, and you are guaranteed feedback. There will be other little bits of homework and things for people in that group when we get there. So while we're here looking at Peter's photograph, let's give him hell for it, shall we? Because he gives me hell, trust me. I really love it, Peter. I like the way we've got this sort of abstract repeating pattern going on through the image, but also the way we've got this harmonizing between plants, trees in this case, and these incredibly modern architectural buildings. Do you know what came to mind immediately? It was something I started to think, wow, it's one of those abandoned places, something like Chernobyl or somewhere like that. However, from looking at it, it doesn't look like these buildings are abandoned. It just looks like a really great modern development. So Peter, how does this work? I think it works well. I do like your composition. I very much like the way it sort of flows across and back through the image. All I can say to you, my friend, is you remember when we were in the Bargate in Southampton playing around with light? Remember you had that breakthrough about the massive difference light can make. I think the light on the day you took this wasn't the best. Now we have got highlight and shade, which is good. Look, highlight, shade, highlight, shade. I'm just wondering if the light coming from the same direction, but possibly a little stronger, could have helped. The other thing which I think might have worked if it was stronger light, because it'd be coming towards the camera, it would be backlighting these leaves a little bit more. And then therefore you could take that exposure down just a bit more, expose for the highlights and let the shadows go darker, and I think you'd have had a very, very dramatic image indeed. But nonetheless, it's a good one, my friend. And thank you for that. I'm just noticing in the chat there are several of you saying you would be up for a feedback group. I don't know how much it would be and all the rest of it. When we are closer, we won't be anywhere near doing anything about it till the website's done, but when we are, I will make an announcement within the group and we'll set up a little form and a place where you can sign up, and then we can see how many people actually want to do it. But that's very encouraging. Okay, where was I going? There was something else I wanted to look at here. Yes, who's this? Wendy Lamb. Hello, Wendy Lamb. Look at those beautiful, beautiful, gentle colours. I love your composition, Wendy. I like the way it is sort of high key and it's kind of soft. You've been very, very restrained, and sometimes it's easy to think, let's push that contrast higher and higher, but it wouldn't work with this at all. I like the way you've been brave and allowed those highlights to go right to the very edge to make it sparkly. Now look at the light, girls and boys. Look at the light, look at the little whiskers going on down here on this little bud. I quite like that little highlight, just clipping the edge of it. I don't know how you did this one, Wendy. Did you do this at home in a vase? Is it outside? Is it by a window? It's always interesting to know. But the key thing again is reds and greens. They're best friends. They work really, really well together. And very often the simple image absolutely rocks. And this is one. So my coaching, Wendy, would be actually, again, maybe just a little bit more depth of field. Simply because we got this beautiful crisp sharpness on this one bud here, which is okay, but because we've got these big dominant flowers, I think if the depth of field stretched sort of through them from this bud into these two flowers, letting the ones behind go soft, it would just work a little better. Don't forget, folks, it's not a question of using either one or the other, a shallow depth of field or a wide depth of field. F2.8 or 4.5 or whatever you have, or F22. Don't forget, we got all those other beautiful apertures sitting in between. 5, 6, 8, 10, 11, 16. We can find the one that works best just by changing the aperture, pushing that depth of field a little further, and then having a little look to see how far the depth of field has gone into the image. And you beat me to it, because my other thing I was going to say to Wendy was little tiny bit more space, just so you didn't lose the edge of that leaf. I think they look good on a larger space, but then I am a negative space junkie. So who is it who is saying more space? I'm not going to read it because I read so slowly and it'll be a waste of time. Excuse me, apologies to the person who commented. But yes, a little bit more space around them so they're not like banging against the edge, but otherwise it's a really great picture. Who's this? Hello, Gary. Interesting, interesting, interesting. I like where you're going with this, Gary. Something went wrong when posting. Okay, my comment wasn't posted alongside. Okay, I'm just wondering if there's something went wrong with the upload, because you beat me in a photography competition, and I don't think this is your strongest work. I don't think this is necessarily representative of the sort of stuff that you can do, that you do. So I can see it's a night shot because we got these little stars. I'm just going to rub my screen to make sure they're not flecks of dust. No, they're flecks of dust. What an idiot. However, we can see it's twilight, we can see it's dark, but somehow we haven't quite got the punch in there, Gary. Lone trees are really hard to find, and of course this isn't a lone tree, this is a tree in a hedge, and also it's one that's been bent by a predominant wind. So well spotted on that, but I just think it needs a bit more punch. I'm just wondering, maybe you're a little bit late with Blue Hour in order to capture it, maybe just a little bit earlier. No problem with the silhouette, it's the blue. It just seems quite dark and a little bit dead. I'm just checking again. No, they're little specks of dust. I need to clean my monitors. I keep seeing stars on your picture. Good effort, my friend, good effort. But I don't think it's representative of your strongest work, so please don't be offended. Jill Bags was just saying, I wonder if a thin grey frame would help. Maybe, Jill, to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of frames around images. Yes, if you're going to put them on a wall, but I think adding pin lines and frames and effects around the edge distracts from the image, and it can often be a way of trying to polish a pig's ear, if you understand what I mean. I like to see a picture which can just stand up on its own, and then if a border goes around it or something, it will enhance it, rather than trying to use the border to sort of get away with something that didn't quite work. Apologies, Gary, if I'm giving you stick on your picture, my friend. What else have we got? Who's this? Sherry Turner. Okay, we've got the theme, plants and trees. We've got tree trunks in the background, we've got poppies, we've got plants. How could we improve on this one, Shari? I want to help you see if we can take this a little bit further. I think one of the problems is the angle you're shooting from, because you see how those two silver birch tree trunks are lining up right behind those poppies, and they're a bit of a distraction. They're kind of fighting with it. You've got the two dominant elements in your picture stacked one behind the other, and I just think it might have worked better if you move to the side and put the tree trunks to the side, or better still if you could lose the tree trunks all together. If you could line it into a different angle. The other thing is we've got quite strong front light sort of coming, well, we know where it's coming from. It's coming from above the top right corner of the screen and down. How do we know? Look where the shadow is on that petal. Now, whenever possible, if you can shoot when the light is a little lower in the sky, that will make a difference. And if you can put the light behind the poppy, that's even better. Maybe you couldn't do that in this case. The other one would be a slightly shallower depth of field, a bigger aperture that's a smaller f number, and just focus on the poppy. The other thing that could have helped is using a long lens. Now I know, yes, it's easy to think, well, it's only an arm's length away, why do I need a long lens? It's because different focal lengths bring a different look and appearance to your subject. Also, longer lenses have a shallower depth of field characteristic. So therefore, if you use a wider aperture with a longer lens and stand further away to do your composition, even though it's the same composition, good chance you'll have a shallower depth of field. You'll also be able to isolate in a little bit more onto your subject, onto your poppy. But well spotted. I like your use of colour. Red and green, best friends, all over again. I hope that helped, Shari. Oh, what do we got here? Who's this? Michelle Lorraine. I'm going to need to get a move on, aren't I? Another poppy. I like the way you've used these lines, Michelle. It looks to me like you took a lot of care with this to get this line here across the top of the lavender in the foreground, almost at the same angle, or as close as you could get it, to the angle of these lines of the rows of lavender going on in the field down below in the distance. That'd be very easy to move your body around and maybe not have those angles line up, in which case they would be, as my good friend Rob in the street photography and portraiture video we did recently, my friend Rob, he calls it conflict. They would be conflicting, but the fact they're just working nicely, a shallow depth of field, I think works very, very well. Now the light here is very, very flat. And I'm just wondering whether you could have just pushed up that contrast a little bit. It might have helped a bit, but then again, this is personal taste. You know, very often the softer contrast works very, very well. Now I noticed, Sandra, you wrote you like the contrasting poppy. I'm not so keen on it. I find it, I don't know, somehow a bit irritating. Maybe it's not the perfect poppy. Maybe if we could see the little black face of the poppy, somehow, because it's got another poppy sort of seed bud thing popping up around the corner. I'm not quite so keen on it, but that is personal taste. Who likes the poppy? Who thinks it works better with just the lavender? Let's do the thumb or finger test. I'm going to use my thumb. Let's just line it up. Just close one eye, people, and just line your thumb over that red poppy. You don't want to cover too much. We just want to hide the poppy with the tip of your finger. What do you think? With poppy, without poppy? With poppy, without poppy? With poppy, without poppy? Pop it into the chat. It's just interesting to see who likes what, because every single person is different. Look at that. You've split the group, Michelle. You've split the group. We've got withouts and we got withs. I think one of the things here that could help, of course, is light. We can't always guarantee the light is going to do what it wants to do on the day that we go, because normal human beings have a life. I've been doing a photo shoot for a local distillery that is based in a barn on a farm in the most stunning countryside. And trust me, it has been a pain in the butt to get so that I can be there at the right time of day to get the light. They wanted pictures of the light going through the barley, pictures of light coming up through the vineyards, and you've got to be there at the right time of day. You know, that has involved me leaving here at 4:30 in the morning a couple of times so I can drive up there, have the time to get there so the sun's just coming up over the vineyard or the valley or the whatever. But if you could get there, I think, if the light was coming through the lavender towards the camera, that would really, really sing. Thank you, Lorraine. What else have we got? I'm gonna scroll up a bit. I'm lingering near the bottom a lot. There are so many images here I would like to talk about. Forgive me if I'm skimming past you. Do not be offended, but I've got to look at that. Neil Harper, hello, sir. That's a bit of me, isn't it? I really like your concept here, Neil. I like your exposure. I'd say it's spot on. I like your use of colour. I like the way you've spotted something just a little bit different, a bit of human detritus being reclaimed by nature. I'm also intrigued by those clamshells that are on that piece of wood or whatever it is down below. I think everything in there works from a technical colour point of view. I kind of like the composition, but again, Neil, I'm going to say give it a bit more light, give it a bit more room, if you could. I don't know. Was there a dirty great tree there, or a nasty bin, or a sign on the wall, or something that was spoiling it for you? But if you could have included some more of that slightly mouldy brickwork in the background with this sort of bicycle and some space around it, I really think that would have absolutely popped. It's just me. Ah, here we go. It had to be a tight shot. Okay, so there was something in the way, something that didn't work. It's so frustrating when that happens, isn't it? Yep, I get it, Neil. Thank you for sharing that, because it helps us understand what you were doing. But nonetheless, I love it. Great image. So let's ease a little further up our page and just look at some of these cracking images. Here's one that I just think, I do think this jumps out, particularly when you have a quick look. Alan Baxter. Hello, Alan, sir. I love the way you've caught this little bit of highlight on that little flower at the top, and I really like the shadow on the leaf below. The way the light is kissing the leaf is almost the best bit. I really like this slightly shadowy leaf in the background. Alan, if you're here, I would love to... Hello, Alan, there you are. I would love to know, is that black background created in post-production, or was it against a deep shadowy area and you pulled it down? I have no problems with a bit of dodging and burning and taking things down a little bit. But it is a lovely picture. I really like that shadow, and I love the texture on the leaf. He thought there was a squirrel more than it was my pointer. How funny. The only thing I'm not sure about is the flower, because it's well past its prime. Now, does that matter? I don't really know. Deep shadow of undergrowth behind helped you. Yeah, I got it, Alan. You still used the light perfectly, my friend. You really did. Look at the textures in those leaves. Now, even though I kind of like the manky leaf, let's call it, I also think it would work brilliantly without it. If it was, you can't get away with it because of the shadow on the leaf below. But had it been those two, these two leaves against that dark background, and even if you had just a hint of stuff in there, I think it would have worked very well indeed. But nonetheless, I do like the shot, and I like the way you've been really careful with exposure, because, you know, that would have been super bright compared to what was going on down here. Nice, sensitively handled image. The other thing, girls and boys, look at... So look, did try to turn back time, but nature had her way. Okay, not sure I'm following that. Hello, Silver Rain. Yes, exactly. I love the way those leaves fade out in the background. What was I going to say? Look at the composition, ladies and gentlemen. I couldn't keep calling you girls and boys, because I love this empty space, that bit of breathing space around it, and even without the bright flower, I think it's really rather nice with just the leaves. Try this, just for, this isn't a question, just try this for yourselves. just get your thumb and just hide the bright flower and just look at the two leaves against that black. It's difficult to do it, isn't it, without hiding too much picture. Either way works. Either way works. But I do think it is. It's a cracking picture, Alan. And I hope everyone found what I was saying about the composition and all the rest of it to be useful in some way. Oh, look, what do we got here? I wonder if that's an Emma Port. No, it isn't. It's just Tracy Strachan. I am sorry, Tracy Strachan. Emma Port was doing a lot of this stuff. The pet ventosa effect. You know what? I have never done it. I don't know how it works and I don't know how you do it. But I do know that it is effective and kind of interesting. I think it is a very interesting image, very arty sort of a look, isn't it? But what I think really draws me to this one, Tracy, is your use of colour, your colour palette. We've got greens and purples and blues. It's all nice and simple. I will look up and figure out how you do this technique, effect, whatever you call it. You know me, I'm a documentary boy. I tend to just go for what's there and try and record it as is. But it is a beautiful look. Something else which I find intriguing in this image of yours is, are you shooting through a window or something? Or is this part of the effect? Please, please, please tell me in the comments. I'm just looking at what's going on here. It looks like there's reflections in a plate of glass. It looks like there's a steering wheel here and something. Or is it a multiple exposure? Please, please, please enlighten me if anyone knows. But it's a cracking picture. I like the way you haven't gone too contrasty. I think you've handled it very sensitively. And I do very much like your composition. Just letting it sit there and be strong in the middle. I'm just waiting for a moment, see if anyone's got a comment just to let me know. I don't think you're here, Tracy. Never mind. Shot on the round. Okay, thank you, Jules. You go around the subject taking pictures in every direction and then layer them. Okay, the thing that's intriguing me is this steering wheel or something and these other things going on. It's kind of intriguing. Look, there's a road sign, a street sign or something in here. I guess these are the things that are surrounding it, which are coming out in the image. Yeah, I've got to get my head around this one. Nonetheless, I'm going to move on because I'm not knowledgeable enough about this technique to comment. But, cracking picture, Tracy. Let's ease up. Good grief, we've had half an hour already. I'm just going to move on, move on, move on. And I can feel some of you guys going, come on, pick it. There's mine. It's right in front of you. Sorry. Here's a picture. Who's this? Juan Saavedra. I think you're a newcomer, Juan. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining in. Whoops. I hit my screensaver hot corner there and that's why the screen went black. So I get where you're going with this. Totally. Frame in a frame. Using the arch to frame the trees beyond. And it is a great technique, Juan. It really is. I'm not entirely sure it's working for you here. I think the sides are just a little too dominant. And of course the annoying thing is the tree is off to the side. I know where you were going. Now had you been able to shoot, I think, clean through the arch, it would have worked very well indeed. But of course, I know what you're going to say. There wasn't a tree if you look straight through it, so you had to kind of take it at an angle. It's a really good effort. Now it also looks like we pulled that sky down a bit in post-production or something, and I think you might have pulled it a bit too far. It's very easy to think, let's pump that sky up and make it stronger. But you know what? Sometimes it can look a little bit funny because somehow the whites in that cloud, they should be brighter than that. But a good effort, sir. Really good effort. Again, light is the important thing here, and the sun was behind a cloud when you shot this particular image. Now I don't know where the sun is in this sky, whether it's directly above or whether it is to the side. The thing is, all the light is coming straight down. We know that because look at those perfect circular shadows underneath the tree. Now I'm just wondering if you were to wait a moment until one of these pieces of blue here, these blue holes as we call them, if the clouds had moved and the sun was in a blue hole between them, I think you'd have had probably a bit more light, a bit more life in the trees, but I don't know where the sun was in the sky. I'm guessing looking at the highlights on the cloud, the sun's coming down in that direction. But it might have been worth a go. Light is everything. Juan, I hope you found that useful, as I hope maybe some of you other guys did. Light is king. Look out for it. Don't go too mad with the post-production. Oh, that looks pretty. Whose is this? Tyler Moody. Hello, Tyler Moody. I like the mistiness in this little piece here. Tyler, I don't think we've met before. Welcome. I like the softness. Now in this case the soft light is working. We're sort of getting these bits of light and shade, and I love your bit of mistiness going on here. And I like the way you frame that mistiness and the little stream in between these two bits of bush. You gotta love a bit of bush. Now I like your little stream coming towards you. For me, the thing that kind of makes it work is this little rill, this little light piece of light going on down here. If that wasn't there, it wouldn't be working at all. I think it's a pretty cool shot actually, Tyler. I'm wondering, could you have shot it from a slightly lower angle? Maybe it would have helped. Just come down a bit. Now I don't mean to pan down, I mean move your body down and tilt the camera up as you go, because it might have just helped a little bit. The angle is normal, forgive me. It's what we were talking about earlier with swans. We're looking down, it's as though you're on a bridge looking down. You probably are. However, maybe if you could have got under the bridge, got your feet wet, led on the bridge, hung over the side with the camera perhaps, maybe that would work just a bit better. But it is a nice shot and it's well spotted. I also particularly love the way the light is playing on these leaves here. Maybe lose those, I don't know. But it is a really, really nice picture. Indeed, Peter Schmidt, it is a moody picture. Nicely done, Tyler. Thank you for coming along and entering. What have we got going on here? This is interesting. Pete Keats. We seem to be getting a lot of new names showing up, which is great. Similar colour palette to Wendy. Nice, pretty colours. And I'm not sure what part the postcard plays in this, but actually it just kind of works. There's just something about it which makes me tell a story in my own mind about being at home. I don't know, some flowers, I don't know what they're called, I'm not very good at plants and trees. Ironic, isn't it? But I like the way that old postcard is leaning against it, and that handwriting. There is something here, it almost seems, Pete, for you, a personal story, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. I like the soft approach we've got to this. It's not too contrasty. It is indeed a beautiful picture. Sweet peas, thank you for that. I thought all peas were green and you put them in a plate, maybe with melted cheese on them. But I love the softness, I like the delicateness. In this case, I think just the one sharp sweet pea kind of works here. I really think it does. Maybe take that exposure down just a hint. It's a shame we've got a bit of a burnt highlight there. I'm not usually at all anal about burnt highlights, but I do think it's a really gentle, moody picture. I can see that sort of on a frame on a wall. It's just a sort of nice, easy thing to look at, and as so many of you are saying, it is nostalgic. Thank you, Pete. Right, I better whiz up here because we have only got about 20 minutes left. Who's this? Because Alan Bristow. Hello, Alan. Another long timer, my friend. Okay, so you're working with a bit of a zoom blur thing going on here, and you've actually affected it really rather well, Alan. The thing is, when you're doing a zoom blur, you need to choose something to zoom blur to. The focal point of this zoom blur is like the heel of this tree down here. Now, had it been this little clump of grass, I think it would have improved it, because you'd be taking us poof into something. You've done it really nicely. I like the effect because it's a delicate sort of effect. It's almost like you've done a double zoom blur in there, but either way, the thing is, we've got to be really careful to position something in the center of a zoom blur so it takes us there. This is good on you, my friend. You've got the exposure about right, you worked something, you've got a nice even zoom blur going on there, but look for something to put into the center. Try and find a point of interest, something that is a destination within the blur. Oh, that's interesting. Who have we got here? Dorothy. Dorothy Vega. I like that. And now, of course, I've seen these before when I did my going through picking out my pick of the month, if you like. And of course, I don't look at the names because it's easy to get attached saying, oh yeah, you've been around for ages, or you haven't, or whatever. I try and just look at the picture. I do like this. There's something just kind of moody and interesting, and I like the way we got these little bits of scrubby bush and the tree surrounding our grand human inventions. This is a really moody picture. I do think it is a really intriguing and interesting shot. Now, the soft light in this case I think is working brilliantly. It's about light being appropriate for the subject. It's not just sunshine's better, shades better, misty's better. It depends on the subject, and in this case with this, you know, slowly deteriorating steam yard, the soft light works well, and the soft colour palette as well. Dorothy, you've done a great job there, because, you know, it's really tempting to think the colours are a bit muted, I'll pimp them up. Yeah, but it works so well with this not to do this. I think it's a really, really, really nicely done picture. What more can I say? How can you improve upon it? I'm not entirely sure that you can, but I did want to give you a shout out because we've been talking about getting the light from this angle and that angle. I think this soft, gentle light works, as do these soft, gentle colours. Let's move a little higher, because who else have we got? Interesting things going on. That's a pretty picture from John Colony. Hello, John. I'm intrigued by the colour here. Is that a natural colour? Is that a colour cast from somewhere else? I love your shapes, and I love your use of depth of field, because I think you've got all of those stamens sharp, or if not, they're so sharp it's hard to tell with a Facebook image. I love the composition, the way you're letting that swoop around and up. How could it be improved? I think your use of space is great. I'd have been inclined to brighten it up a bit. I'd have just brightened it up a bit, John. I'm not saying I'm right. This is very much personal taste stuff, but I think it could have taken a little bit more brightness. And I kind of like that lilac-y colour on those stamens, and I don't know if that, I'm guessing that could be light passing through the petals to bring it in. It's made it that colour, but maybe just a touch more exposure, I think, could have helped. Of course, everything I'm saying might be complete arse. What do we got? Clive Barton. Oh, I love that one, Clive. I'm going to have a quick look, because that is very Ansel Adams-ish. Ansel Adams-ish. I like the subtle approach you've given to this one as well, Clive. Very, very careful composition to run that line down the middle of the frame, and I really like it. And the way those little fronds of fern are just catching the light. Look at it. Light on the top, light and shade, light and shade, light and shade, always light and shade. This is what makes things work. And I also really like this one coming in from the side, sort of intruding. Got these little intrusions going on around it, and they just work, particularly the way we've got the same pattern at a different angle. Beautiful little piece of light on there. I think it's a beautiful picture, Clive. I really do. I think it's a cracking picture. What more can I say? I don't think it can be improved upon. I'm sorry, my friend. It always makes me feel guilty when I pick a picture and go, isn't this awesome? And it's not in the pick of the month. I'm going to quickly shout this one. Who's this? Andre. Because I thought this was a beautiful idea too. Having that single rose on what looks to me to be a memorial. But we've also got, you know, the greenery going on in the background. So we've got like a really poignant Rose going on, and then we've got the memorial, which is very human, and then we got nature, and then we got the city in the background, which again is human. I think this really is a cracking picture, Andre. Your exposure is spot on. The simplicity of your colour palette and the areas of light and shade, it would be easy to make this too contrasty, but what is working so well here is we've got an area of strong contrast in the foreground with the white flower and the names on this memorial. But you notice how that contrast is almost falling off in a dreamy sort of a way at the background. It is telling our viewer precisely what this image is about and where to look. Beautiful picture, Andre. Guys, if you're struggling with your photography and you're thinking, well, why can't I, it's a rose on a thing. These are the little subtleties that make the difference, and that is why I bang on about them for you. See how that contrast is trailing off as we go back through the image. Now that could just be natural due to the light. It could be Andre's done some very subtle and gentle post-production. Post-production is not where you fix things that are broken. It's where we bring things to life. Ansel Adams, Steve McCurry, go back to the greats of Henri Cartier-Bresson. They were all doing post-production. I know you want to get it right in the camera, and you have to get it right in the camera, because if you don't, your post-production isn't going to work. Who's this? Susan Firth. Hello, Susan Firth, another regular. Nice idea, Susan. It's a nice idea, and I kind of like the gloves and the fork, and you're saying something about what you're doing. We've got a soft colour palette here. Now, how could we strengthen this? I think the position of the gloves somehow looks a bit contrived. This is only me. This is just my opinion. Remember, it's only an opinion. This isn't real life. This is just me talking here. I don't know. I think it might look almost better if the gloves were more sort of chucked on the ground. Maybe. I don't know. But the other thing as well, I think, is the light. I think for this subject, a bit of backlight. If the light was coming towards the camera, so we had some shadows on the ground, that might have helped you just a bit. But I like your composition. I like the way you've obviously thought about putting this together, and you have said a little something about your plants, which is what I'm always banging on about, isn't it? You've told us that they're in your garden and that you like to look after your garden. It looks like you've got a beautiful garden. You need to get the mower out, or somebody does. But anyway, nice picture, Susan, and I hope that helped. Oh, so many amazing pictures, but I do want to work my way to the top. Who's this with the fungus? Carol Crom. Hello, Carol. What I really like here, Carol, is your camera angle. The way you are shooting these fungus from right down there on the forest floor. It is an unusual angle. This is what we were talking about a little bit earlier. We have got a bug's eye view of these fungus, and it always makes for a more interesting, dramatic image. I like the way we're looking up at the forest floor. Now, our depth of field's pretty cool. We've got a good focus on this one here, and it is slowly trailing off. Maybe a hint more depth of field. I'm being harsh on you, Carol. I've got my coach's hat on here. But nonetheless, I think it's a nice image. I think the light could have helped you a little bit stronger light, or maybe increasing the contrast just a touch. But nonetheless, I like the way you put it together. Look at the shape, people. If you're struggling with composition, look at the shape. Look, we've got this little rise here. We've got a triangular sort of a shape, and it's going on here. It's, I don't know what you call it. I wasn't very good at paying attention at school. But we've got this triangular shape going on here. It's almost like a set square shape, isn't it? A right-angled triangle. That's the one. But I also love this little clump of greenery going on the right, and you know what, I kind of like this little intrusion down here too. But I like the way you've held the picture together. It's a very nicely, carefully done composition. Wah, wah, wah. Very funny, Glyn Heskins, sorry, I got your name wrong. Right, we're slowly working our way up towards the top now. There are many more that I wanted to talk about, but somehow we spent a little more. What's going on here? Who's this? Anton. Anton Stefan. Well, Stephen, I like your idea, Anton. I do like your idea of doing something with cactuses, and I like your shape. I think the problem here, my friend, is that this point of interest in your shot, which you have controlled with your depth of field by focusing on it, making sure that is the sharp area, but it's just a little bit lost in the tones of these pebbles that are going on around them. So you almost have to look at it twice, or I did. Did anyone else have to look at it twice? Purely because this cactus here is so strong and so dominant. My eye goes to that and I think it's out of focus. Then I notice this little clump here, but it's so well camouflaged in here. Then I realise that you've worked very well in order to get that there. I think it's one of those times when there is a picture here, but it's somehow not quite coming together. Possibly, Anton, maybe a lower angle, make it stronger in the foreground. So instead of looking down quite, maybe a bit like with the fungus, you're down almost on gravel level. I don't know if that would have worked or not. It also somehow looks, I don't know, a little bit pinky in contrast. I think a bit more contrast might have helped. Nonetheless, good on you, my friend, because you have purposely tried to tell us where it is. I just think your problem is that the background blends in. Can you change the background? Not really. It's one of those things that is so frustrating. What have we got going on here? Chris Bowles. Oh, I rather like that. A bit of pan movement blur going on. Ah, shot from a train. Either way, I think there's something really quite arty and creative and rather nice about this. Because I guess if the train's going really fast, you're going to get a lot of movement blur, even though you can use a fast shutter speed. And I think that's what's going on here, because we've almost got this tree levitating above the bushes, and the bushes haven't blurred quite so much. The more I look at this, the more I realise that it's actually really kind of interesting. It almost looks like it's been done in post-production, but I totally get it. If you're on a speeding train, then you're going to be able to get this kind of effect. I really like the minimalist amount and all these streaks. So where the stuff that is closer to the train is going to appear to move faster, isn't it, than what is further away. So we've got almost two different speeds because of the relative distances. This is blurring like mad because it's up alongside the train. This is not blurring as much because it's further away. What do I mean by that? It's all travelling at the same speed. Yes, but it's due to relative distance. Think about, you see a jet plane whistling across the sky. Looks like it's going quite slowly, doesn't it? Because it's a long way away. It's sort of creeping its way across the sky, that little speck up there. But that same aircraft, when it is going considerably slower coming into land, if you're stood by the runway, woof! Do you see what I mean? And that's the effect that's going on here. The stuff closer to the camera appears to be moving an awful lot faster. Jules says almost an Adamski effect. See, I'm not very good at my effects, am I? I'm just a simple farm boy who learnt how to take photographs. Great shot, Chris. I like it. I like it, my friend. Let's just ease up a little further. What else have we got going on here? Oh, have we got some movement coming on here from Denise Savage? Oh, it's a combination of two images brought together on a phone app. See, you can be creative with anything. From two images taken on the phone. Okay, so you're basically blending two images together. You've got this really kind of interesting, it looks like this moving in the wind effect, but I totally get what's going on here. That's kind of fun, isn't it, Denise? Yeah, I kind of like it. And I can kind of see we're looking a bit of Aussie bush here or something. Yeah, it's kind of fun. I don't have a problem with apps. I don't have a problem if you make something that you like and other people like it. Good on you. There are so many ways to reach the same thing. How could it be improved? It's really hard to say that with an abstract such as this because, you know, what more can I say? It's interesting to know how it was done though, and I do think it is an interesting picture. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I like it. Oh, what have we got going on here? Dave Booth. Ooh, I like your shapes, Dave. Nature's barcode, you called it. Very, very interesting. If you're here, Dave, I'd love to know, did you want that level of contrast in the image? Or is it something you created afterwards in post-production? Or is it something that was just there? You know, I mean, I don't know how you shot it. Was it done on a phone? How was it done? It is pretty powerful and it is interesting. I like the way we've got so much light in the forest. Now these sorts of shots to me work extremely well when the sun is lower in the sky. The shadows are coming in this direction. They're going from sort of right to left. Right to left. That's correct. And that's kind of interesting. Now if you can shoot straight towards the sun, so the shadows are coming straight at the camera, it often works even better. But nonetheless, it's a really interesting shot. Dave doesn't look like you're here, my friend, which is a shame because I'm going to need to move on because it is now 8 of the clock. Nonetheless, some beautiful pictures. Look at this. Sarah Moore's bee on the lavender. What more can I say? Beautifully taken picture. Does it need the tilt? I think it kind of works simply because it puts the bee on the level and therefore makes it a little bit kind of crazy, makes you think just for a moment. Nice soft light, beautiful colours. You see, I want to talk about all of these, but I can't. Okay, we're coming up near the top. There is one more. Who do I choose? That's an interesting looking black and white image we've got going on here. Who have we got? Bruce Robertson. I like this one, Bruce. I really do. This is one of these things called, I can't remember, it's a nut, isn't it? They're really tasty as well. It's not horse chestnut, it's some sort of chestnut, I believe. I think black and white is a really good treatment. The way we've got just a touch more light caressing this little nut. Also, I guess it's to do with the tonality. Is it a hazelnut, Ian Watkins? Great. Cobnut, that's the run, Rob. Cobnut. They're delicious. Look at the light. The way it's just kissing around this little twig and bringing to life this leaf that's been so chewed by bugs. I think it's a really, really nice, clean image. Bruce Robertson, you said hazelnut over there. What's the difference between a hazelnut and a cobnut? I thought they were different. I do seem to recall cobnuts are delicious though. Either way, I think it's a beautiful picture and it really demonstrates the subtle play of light. This is the thing to watch for, people. If you're struggling with light, really study images. Look, bright and dark, highlight and shade, highlight and shade. These are the things that make an image work, and this is what you have to learn to look at. Highlight and shade is what's meant by qualities of light. If you're struggling with understanding qualities of light, please, 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 if you haven't done it already, get onto my masterclass course. Why would you do that when there's so much free stuff out there on YouTube? Trying to learn everything from everyone isn't the best way, because you're taking random pieces of information and trying to create your own photography course without knowing in which order those pieces of information need to come together to make sense and work coherently. That is the value of buying an online course, be it from me or anyone else for that matter. If you like the way I teach, go and get mine. It's 100% refund guaranteed. Masterclass, go and have a look. Links below. Or better still, come on a workshop. Who else is coming to Morocco? That is getting close. The deadline is getting close. Okay, no matter how much I want to talk about these images more, because there are some beauties in here, I'm going to have a little switcheroo now and sort out my screen so that we can have a look at the current pics of the month. But just before we do that, we've been doing a lot of work on our newsletter. I know we send out some free tips and all the rest of it, but some of you I know are on our newsletter, and we brought that up a notch, a level, to make it a lot more of value. I've made a commitment to you that I am writing a book. I'm not going to go into the details now, it's too late. but I'm serializing little pieces of it because I'm allowing you guys to hold me accountable to get it done. I don't know how I'm going to do this because I've got at least another 2 weeks work just on the website at the moment, and that's with Emmeline and others helping. But if you're not on our newsletter list, there is a link in the description below. Please go and get it because I think it is now valuable. Plus, of course, you won't miss anything when we do decide to put together a feedback group. And I think there can be different levels of feedback groups. Sometimes we can get some of our guest speakers back. And of course, since we started this, I've got a whole wealth of extraordinary people that I can call on to come and be part of that. So get yourself onto the newsletter because we will be able to keep you updated. You won't miss anything, such as the talk on peppermint the other day, which went extremely well. And I just want to thank anybody here who came along to that. I think peppermint is an extremely good community. It's a startup. I've been working with them for over a year, doing some consultancy on the psychology of training. I made a phone photography course, which is only available on peppermint, and now I'm starting to do some speaking events, and I've been involved in some other projects of theirs. There's some very good guys. It's a startup, but I really think it is turning into something amazing. Go and have a look at some of the things that they are starting to do as a community. It isn't just photography, true, but there's a lot of good stuff there. Let us move forward and get myself sorted out as we move into my picks of the month. So ones that I'm giving a bit of a shout out to. Sandra Sim. I just really liked this. I just thought it's got a real mood and a kind of an atmosphere to it, and that is what I particularly loved about this picture. It's that hazy, dreamy quality. Now we've got that foreground poppy, which is really strong in the image. The light is coming towards the camera, so it's backlighting it, and it's bringing those petals to life. Look at the little whiskers on the poppy stem itself. Look how it's made them stand out. This is light, is everything. But not only that, Sandra, you have used the light in the picture to create a mood. Sandra has got lens flare in there. Now I know there are people all over the internet who are going, oh, you got lens flare. Oh, look how beautifully Sandra has used that lens flare to come in from the middle at the top, those little rays of light, that mistiness. It's creating a mood and a feeling, and it is saying something about these flowers. Beautiful, gentle touch with any post-production that you have done. It's not too contrasty. Pastel colours. It is a real, it's got a cool sort of I don't know, a morning feeling to it almost. I think it's a cracking picture. I really love that one, Sandra. Next, who have we got? We have Dina Peters. I love it. It's another looking down, you know, it's a different angle. But also, I'm really intrigued by the light we've got here, Dina. The light is coming through the petals and we are looking down at it. So did you light this flower from underneath? Are you somehow holding it up against the sky? I am fascinated by this. Is the sun low in the sky? I don't know how you did it, but it makes it just stand strong. It is the light coming through those petals from behind that absolutely make it work. And if you're here, Dina, I would just love to know how you lit that. I just think it's really beautifully done. The black and white is working so well for the textures that you have got in those little petals. The exposure's spot on. The focus runs all the way through from the tips of the petals to behind. This is something we were talking about earlier. You know, don't forget, you haven't just got f4 or f2.8 or f1.8 and f22. You've got all that range of apertures in between, and all those things are little fine controls on your depth of field. So you can try it, see what's sharp, what isn't, adjust the aperture, move the focal point. All these things are in Masterclass, and it will allow you to get the whole area that you want to be sharp. Beautiful image, Dina. Beautifully handled and beautifully well done. Now the next one, which I just found totally captivating, it's so simple, was from our friend Ahmed Berbers. I just love the simplicity of this and the play of light, that parched earth with the cracks in it. The colours are so simple, and then that little new shoot of life just coming out of the ground. Ahmed, I love the way you have positioned it in the frame. It's not like a rigid rule of thirds, but you've just let it go off to one side a little bit, allowed it to sort of go off into the darkness, which is what looks to me like a little bit of very gentle and skillful, delicate use of dodging and burning on your finished image. I think it's a beautiful picture. I love the way it says something as well. You know, the world is going through an awful lot of drought at the moment. Huge swaths of Greece and Europe and other places are burning. And this says a little something about this dry, cracked land with this little piece of new life just popping through there. Beautifully spotted, Ahmed, and I think it's a beautifully executed, very delicate and simple image. So our next one, forgive me, I have to look on the other side just to have a look to see who did this. Okay, I don't think we've met Damon Didcox, but it's another very simple and really rather lovely picture. I quite like the fact this one's a little dark, Damon, and why does it work? I just think it's that huge leaf in the background with those veins. The light is coming through the leaf and the veins are all standing out, but also look at the light on these two flower heads, bulbs, whatever they are. I don't know what they are, I'm sorry. It's such a lovely, beautiful, gentle light, and it's just bringing those shapes to life. It's simple. We've just got the two on different levels. Simplicity always works. What more can I say? I'm just going to look at it on a bigger screen over there. Yeah, Damon, I think it's a cracking shot. I love the soft, when I say softness, I don't mean soft as in focus. I mean the softness of the image, and it is pretty much all one colour, which just works beautifully. Moving on to our good long-term friend and resident writer, Mr. Philip Gray. I just think it's another very simple, beautifully done interpretation of the theme, plants and trees, and it's just a delicately, carefully, well taken photograph. I hope you're here, Philip. Look, we've got a leaf off a tree, and we've got a tree that has been interfered with by a human being. Look how beautifully, carefully Philip has composed this shot. Look at those vertical lines, that man-made thing, and it's rigid and it's straight. You know, there is no wonkiness. It's not at a funny angle. Everything is perfect. Philip's worked pretty hard to get that all to line up. And then that little fallen leaf just sitting precariously on the edge, almost as though the tree that it fell from might be precariously on the edge of being turned into a wooden bench. Who knows? I think it's a really beautiful picture. I love that juxtaposition between man-made and natural. Simple colours, nice, simple, delicate post-production, if there is any on it at all, and of course beautiful light. Look at the light, which is just gently, there's a slight change on the bench, a slightly brighter area and a slightly darker area. Beautiful picture. What more can I say, Mr. Philip Gray? Which leads us on to our Potma, our photo of the month. And again, remember people, this is a photo of the month. This isn't a competition to be won. It's a challenge. It's for everyone to go out and get stuck in and see what you can do with your photography. And the one which I kept coming to was, I haven't got it ready on my screen, this one here from Jojo Dandy. I just really loved this, and I just kept coming back to it. the way we've got, you know, the white Mediterranean looking wall against an almost not there but very, very subtly blue sky, and the beautiful light on that plant. It's almost like it's peeping round the corner at us. And I think that is what I particularly liked about it. I like, again, the rigid lines, the man-made shapes, you know, the verticals and horizontals and all that man-made rigidness against the slightly random nature of the plant. The light on the plant looks really, really nice, and we've got just that boof, that hit of green going on right there in the middle of the picture, socking us in the eye. I think it's a cracking picture. I think you guys have taken some awesome pictures. If you are somebody who is watching and you haven't posted or entered the challenges, then please, please, please come and join in, because we've got a lovely supportive group of photographers, and the way you get good at something is by doing it, not by just watching others. Get yourself out there onto the court. So just finally, I want to say a couple of words about the next challenge, which will go live right after we end this broadcast. I mentioned at the beginning that it is inspired by our friend Mr. Paul Tyzak, and I just wanted to share an image of his with you, because I just think it shows something of the man's humour, and it's this image which has inspired the next challenge. So bear with me, because in about 10 minutes after we end this, I will put that live on our website and share a link onto the group. So thank you all for being here. It's been an honour and a privilege. I will keep you posted about feedback groups and all that good stuff. And I wish you well. Get stuck into the next challenge, have fun with it, and thank you all for being here. And if you haven't done it already, please hit that like button. It makes an immense difference. Please, please, please hit on that like for me. I will see you all soon. Be well, my friends. Take care of yourselves. Until next time.